If you're following along with our Bible reading plan, today's reading was from Luke chapter 4. And in Luke 4 is the story of Jesus in Nazareth, the town he grew up in, going to the synagogue on the Sabbath. And when it was time to read a portion of the Hebrew Scriptures, the scroll of Isaiah was handed to him. The text says that he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Now, I think there's a couple things noteworthy here in the story. First, maybe most obviously, is that Jesus, after reading this passage, claims that it was describing him. If you really stop to think about it, it's not hard to wonder why that got people all riled up. It's a bold and audacious claim, and one that a good Jew wouldn't flippantly let someone make. But the other thing that I find really interesting is what Jesus read and what he chose not to read. Because if you go back to what he's quoted from the Old Testament, where he stops, he's essentially stopping mid-sentence. The last line that he speaks before rolling the scroll up and putting it away is, "To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And what he doesn't read, which is the second half of that line, is, "and the day of vengeance of our God." And I think this is not by accident. You see, Jesus had come not to inflict punishment on the nations. Jesus had come to bring God's love and mercy to the nations. And this passage isn't the only place in the New Testament that clues us into this fact. One of the downsides to John 3:16 being such a famous verse is that we often don't go on to read John 3:17, which says, "For God did not send his Son, Jesus, into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." Yes, the Bible talks about a day of judgment, but that's not what Jesus came for. It wasn't the time then, and I would argue it's not the time today, nor is it our role. That role, when the day comes, is God's to play. And in the meantime, we declare that this is the season, that today is the day of God's favor. I'm not sure what it is about human nature, but it seems like second nature for some people to pass judgment on others, to find reasons to write them off, to maybe even conclude they're just bad people. But if we're going to be those who follow Jesus, then we need to be those who reject that way of seeing the world, and especially that way of seeing other people. Our job is to be conduits of God's love and mercy to others, to point them to Jesus and the gift of new and abundant life that Jesus offers. That's what we should major on. How do you view the people around you? Is it easier for you to be merciful and gracious, or stern and judgmental? Maybe today you want to ask Jesus to bring your heart for others more in line with his own heart.